Good evening. I'm calling to order the Fountain City Council meeting for February 24th, 2026. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Thompson,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Estes,
Here.
Councilmember Veerhoff,
Here.
Councilmember Geek,
Here.
Councilmember Rick,
Here.
Councilmember Hersberg,
Here.
Councilmember Ruffenach. I have 6 members present.
All right, thank you very much. That takes us on to public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. I do not have any cards, Madam Clerk. Do you have any?
I do not, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing then, public to be heard. Item 5.1, presentations. There are none tonight. Item 5.2, board, commission, and committee appointments. There are none tonight. Item 6, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any report either.
Mr. Evans, down the row. No? All right. Everybody's shaking no back there. Madam Clerk, IT?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back up here. Councilmember Geek, anything tonight? Nothing tonight. All righty. Councilmember Verhoff, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Estes?
Nothing this evening?
Nothing today? Councilmember Hersberg?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Rick?
Sure, I'll take a shot.
Right ahead, as long as it's not Rockies.
Just want to thank city staff, particularly code enforcement. Got complaints of people dumping mattresses and furniture and furniture cushions out on North El Paso. Put in a request to have that abated, and within 10 days, staff had it taken care of. So do appreciate that, and would remind the community that you can use the My Fountain app to make those reports and request that stuff be removed using the My Fountain app. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, that costs you, the citizens, tax dollars when we have to clean up that because people dump it. So it's important. Okay, all righty, that takes it to me. I guess I got everything busy from everybody else this week. Had PPACG last Wednesday, and a lot of discussion on a lot of legislative bills going on. Fountain Middle School, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Estes and I visited the really smart kids. Junior National Achievement.
No, Junior National Honor Society.
Honor Society, yep, so it went, and they are very smart kids. Colorado Municipal League had a meeting up in Denver on Thursday, had some good speakers on what a lot of stuff that's coming down the pike in terms of the budget from the state and what you can expect for the next couple of years. The overspending just seems to continue. They spent a lot of their COVID dollars that were one-time dollars, not wisely like we did. We spent our COVID dollars on one-time expenditures, because that means they're not coming back. And they used COVID dollars to set up recurring programs. And now there is no money for those recurring programs. So it's going to get very interesting. And then on Friday, we had the CML Policy Committee, Colorado Municipal League, where we take positions as municipal leaders on various bills that are up there. And some of them were pretty scary, and some of them are going to cost us a lot of money. And one of the former state representatives said the state, they really don't care if they're shoving a bunch of unfunded mandates down on us, and the municipalities are going to really need to hang together and work together to get some of this stopped, because there are just a lot of things that are being forced down to the states and the counties to pay for that the state should be paying for. And some of them down to businesses. And so And it's everywhere, it's all over the whole spectrum, you know, and public safety and no department is spared, no business is spared, it seems like. So if you have a public restroom in your business, you might want to pay attention to opening it up to people. If they pass the baby changing station, that's going to be required if anybody has a public restroom that's available. And if you have a business that has more than one floor, you'll be required to put the baby changing stations on every single floor of your bathroom. Just putting labels like it's on the first floor or whatever isn't acceptable, would be no longer acceptable. You'd have to have one on every single floor and accessible to anybody who wanted to change the baby. So you may be putting them in men's restrooms, women's restrooms, family restrooms, and it's going to be very expensive for the businesses in our communities. So just odd things like that you need to pay attention to, and different signage that would have to go with it and all that. So if there's not a public restroom anymore, sometimes you just say, thank you, state legislature, because things just can't always be affordable. They're desirable, but not necessarily affordable. So, all righty, and Fort Carson had a strategy forum. Monday was there from 9 to 3, and learned a lot of stuff going on at all the different installations around us, what they're doing, great things for our community and community partners. A lot of people from different municipalities talking about being regional partners and working together on things. And our own John Trilch did a great presentation on the intergovernmental support agreements that we're doing. And I think there was some interest. I saw at least one person come up and talk to him afterwards about some interest in maybe doing one of those. So that's a really great program, and I'm really excited that we're part of that, and it's growing. All right, that takes us on to item 7, consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. We have item 7A, approval of the February 24th, 2026 City Council minutes. What would council like to do with that? Mayor Pro Tem Estes.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember Geek?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us on to item 8, old business. Item 8A, second reading of ordinance number 1817, an ordinance repealing and reordaining sections 13.050.010, section 13.05.030, and 13.05.070 of the Fountain Municipal Code establishing regulations regarding the allocation of newly acquired water resources. Mr. Murphy, I'm assuming you're going to stay there because you're on the agenda quite a bit tonight.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, members of council and the public. So we have 5 business items before council tonight, all related to water. I'm proposing that we break those up really into 2 separate blocks. I will cover the first 2 with a single presentation, then be asking for a vote on those 2 related items. Then we will cover the last 3. Those are related to water connection or tap fees. I will go through all 3 together and then request votes at the very end if that's acceptable to council, just for procedural matters. So can we pull up the presentation for 8A, please? Thank you. So as you noted, tonight is the first item will be a second reading of Ordinance 1817, seeking to make some changes to the utility code within the city's code. And then the second item will be a resolution that is a follow-on to that, to adopt some policies that are created by those code changes. So starting out with the code changes, this ordinance is seeking to make some changes in what we call the water adequacy section of our utility code. That is the section of code that really applies to and dictates new development and how water is either made available or how we ensure that we have sufficient water for new development within the city. So there are really 3 high-level changes, just to give you an overview on, that are occurring in this ordinance. The first one is that the proposed changes would, anytime new water resources come available, establish a thing we are calling a restricted account for water resources or water taps. That means that when the city acquires new water that can serve growth, we are proposing that 20% of that water be set aside immediately into a restricted account, which is really a vehicle for holding that water that only the city council can access to allocate. That water may only be allocated and committed to a use by a vote or an action of city council. And really, the point of that is kind of a long-term safeguard so that if all of the city's water resources are allocated out to development, there's still something to fall back on or to lean on in the future as different public needs arise that may need certain water resources. We've been very intentional in leaving that broad discretion to what qualifies or what is a use of that water to city council's discretion. We don't want to put any guardrails in place that would handcuff a future city council. It's really something that council interprets is in the public interest. They may reach into that account and use some of that water for that purpose. So that leads us to the second key change in this ordinance, and that really addresses what happens to the other 80% of the water that is coming online. This ordinance provides that that water may be allocated into two separate categories to be made available to development. And that is allocating it between commercial, industrial, and institutional uses and residential uses. Really, the purpose there is just to ensure that one use type doesn't monopolize or dominate all of the water. Without water, the city does not grow. We want to have some kind of mechanism to ensure that there is some diverse and balanced level of growth in the future. We don't want just houses and we have no sales tax or employment base to go with it. Vice versa, we don't want just commercial, no new rooftops and housing to go with it, and then you have affordability issues and other problems. So this is really a mechanism that council can use to try and divvy up that water just to make sure that there's some certainty that a mixed and diverse level of growth will occur. That is something that can be set by resolution by council and can be changed, and that will come back on the second item we're going to present in a moment. And the third and final change occurring in this ordinance with code changes touches on annexations. There's been a lot of history around Fountain with new annexations, lands outside the city wanting to come into the city, and really how does that interface with our limited water resources. So right now, with the water resources that we are eyeing bringing online in the near future at a future council vote, those resources only go a small way in addressing the infill needs of the city. That is the lands already annexed into the city that are unbuilt. We will not and do not have enough water to build those out with our current or upcoming resources. And so we feel it's prudent that before even considering adding new lands, which would have service obligations potentially, we really need to keep this water focused on addressing what's already in the city. So based on discussions and feedback with council, we are proposing in these code changes that new lands seeking annexation that would try to access the city's water resources. I want to be clear that these changes apply to the areas of the city of Fountain that are served by the city of Fountain's water utility, not the Widefield water utility, the Security water utility, or any others. They have their own resource constraints or resource availabilities. But before any new lands would annex into the city that would be served by our utility, they must provide their own water. They cannot access the city's water resources or try to buy our taps before lands that are already in the city of Fountain. I do just want to note for a procedural matter that there have been some few minor changes to this ordinance since it was approved on first reading back in January. One was just moving some language from the actual ordinance approval document into the code language itself, just to better memorialize the intent and purpose of these changes. We did just add some minor language to clarify some timeframes and processes. And then last, we just had a few small rewordings for some legal clarity based on feedback by the attorney's office, but none of these changes substantively change what the ordinance and these code changes are actually doing. So that is the first item we will be asking for a vote on. Before we vote on it though, I would like to introduce the second item. This is an accompanying resolution that sets the allocation of that 80%. You'll remember the new code language would allow us to choose how to parcel out the remaining 80% after water's been put in that restricted account and split it between commercial and residential uses. We've had discussions and received feedback from council. Based on that, we are bringing to you a proposal tonight to set by resolution that after the 20% has been allocated for the restricted account, 50% would go to be made available for residential development purposes, and 30% would be allocated to commercial, industrial, and institutional. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like in practice, with the upcoming water that we are bringing before council in the coming weeks, that would bring in approximately 2,000 single-family equivalents. That's 2,000 homes worth of water. Under that amount, the remaining 80% would enable approximately 1,000 residential connections and 600 commercial single-family equivalent connections. So just to put some numbers there, that would be approximately 1,000 rooftops if that all built as residential, and then 600 residential equivalent for commercial. Those are the numbers we are dealing with. So with that, I will bring it back to the action items. We are seeking first a vote on item 8A, which will be the second reading of ordinance 1817 to amend that code language. Then after that, we would ask for a vote on 8B, which is the resolution to set the allocation for that remaining 80% of the water. And I'll open it up to any questions or comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on either one of those ordinances from council or clarifications or anything? Councilmember Rick?
Thank you, Taylor. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Help me understand how many single-family equivalents a commercial business would use. We understand what a house is, but for example, how many single-family equivalents would a restaurant take? How many would a car wash take? Something like that.
Absolutely. That's a great question, and that is an area of focus we've spent a lot of time and effort on over the past few years, really refining and developing using fountain-specific numbers. And I'll say that's a great lead into the tap fees we will discuss in a second. But at a simple level, it varies, but your average fast food restaurant may use about 5 single-family equivalents, give or take, depending on the size, meaning it uses the same water as about 5 households. A car wash is much higher, even though they recycle water. One of the nice kind of newer drive-through car washes uses between 30 and 40 single-family equivalents, much more water. A small business with just a bathroom and a sink might actually use less than 1 single-family equivalent, less water than a house. And really, on the high end, a large school complex could use multiple hundreds potentially, depending on how many ball fields and how much grass is out there. It's a wide spectrum, and it varies, but yeah, the restaurant, kind of lower user coffee shops are in the single digits. Car washes, 30 to 40, and you get really high on the extreme end of very large users, which is what we're trying to kind of correct with the upcoming tap fees.
Okay, thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions from anyone in the audience just about these two things that we just discussed here? Not anything lower down in the agenda, just these two. Please come down and state your name for the record, please. Chief, could we move that? Yeah, I didn't even have to explain it. He knew where I was going.
Frank Carrick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, turn it on, please.
Sorry. Frank
Thank you.
Carrick. So we chatted some about the car washes and how we have a plethora of those in Fountain, and that what they bring to the city in terms of revenue is not what a restaurant might bring. How does that fit into this plan if 2 car washes say, I want to move up on the Mesa, or I see some property down on 8587 and we want to move there? Because what I've been told is if someone has a property for sale and it's zoned with that in mind, it's okay to do it. Is that fair to say?
I'll let you.
Fran, that was the case back in the day, but now that we've got these water limitations,
Yeah.
we have limited and told them we would have a hard time supporting anyone that wanted to bring another car wash into the city at this point. And we've done that since the water problem started, and we've had nobody kind of push that issue.
Okay. So is that a precedent, Todd, that we would set with any business?
Nothing
Do you think-
except excessive water users.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else with a question on either one of these? Please come down and state your name for the record.
Is it on? Okay. Hi, I'm Christy Taylor. I just needed clarification. When you say new water, can you clarify that?
Certainly. So right now, for the last few years, the city has really been kind of capped on the level of new growth that we're allowed to enable. We've not been issuing water taps for new construction, aside from those that have been in planning for multiple years. And that really is because during the summer, during high-use periods, the amount of water being used by our customer base pretty much equals the amount of water we can create through treatment plants and pipes. And so we have been capped at a ceiling where we have not been able to allow new connections and new growth because of that. We have a lease on the horizon right now that will be brought before council in the coming few weeks, and that will bring some new water into the city during that summer period and give us some room to grow into so that we can take on new demands and new connections that will allow new growth to occur.
Expansion. So new water hasn't really been defined yet here.
Our code uses water resources as a term that applies to that.
Okay.
But new water is effectively treated water that can be served straight to customers. That is how we define it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any questions online?
No, ma'am.
All right, I will bring it back up here to the dais, and we're going to handle each one of these one at a time, and that will keep everything straight, right, Joni? Yes, please. Okay, all righty. So we're going to take item 8A, the second reading of ordinance number 1817, repealing and reordaining all those sections that I read of the municipal code. So, Councilmember Hersberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve ordinance 1817 on second reading.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Rick.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Five yes, one no, motion carried. Councilmember Bierhoff voting no.
Okay, thank you. Hang on just a second. Dan, I thought I got it all back together right, but I'm not quite sure I did. Joni, Dan has a new and improved way for me to do packets, so we're going to be talking about that before the next meeting. Okay. All righty. That takes us on to item 8B, Resolution 26-009.
8C, Madam Mayor. We voted. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay. You have been doing this so long, you're doing it in your sleep. We're moving too slow for you. Resolution 26-009, a resolution establishing the allocation of the new water resources. And that would be the percentages that were discussed. Any questions from council? Okay. Any questions from the audience on this one? Okay, I'll bring it back up here. What would council like to do? Get back the right screen here. Councilmember Estes.
Move to approve Resolution 26-009.
Councilmember Geek.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
Okay, Taylor, now.
All right. Thank you. If we could bring up the second presentation, please. So now we're going to go talk about all things related to water connection fees. We commonly call them tap fees. So we will be covering items 8C, 8D, and 8E, and then bringing them all back for votes at the end, if that's acceptable. So I'm going to actually recap a few slides that you've already seen before when we first brought the ordinance to repeal the current tap fees to you for first reading back in January. We kind of provided a high-level explanation of why we're even looking at connection fees. I really want to kind of reiterate a few of the points from that for your memory and for the benefit of the public. They really go a long way in explaining why we're doing what we're doing and the approach we're taking. So really, this is just setting the stage, and this is just kind of some ground-level information. Really ties into what Councilmember Rick asked about. How do different uses look like? What size of meters do they look like? And what is the representation in the city as it stands right now? As you can see on the right, we're a heavily residential-dominated city. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. We're often called a bedroom community. 96% of our city utility customer base for water is residential homes. The other 4% is what makes up our commercial, and within that, we have a large chunk of 3/4-inch commercials. That's really kind of your small business, your low water uses. That's things like light retail and sales, churches, auto shops, just simple examples that need a small commercial meter size just to have water in the building, not using a lot inside. You go above that, we have even fewer 1-inch commercial meters. That's really where you start to get into some indoors water use for the purpose of the business. Good example is a lot of the coffee shops in town are 1-inch. They use the water for making the coffee. We have some smaller fast food sites that are 1-inch size meters, some smaller gas stations that use 1-inch size meters. Still not a whole lot of water use though. We go further up to the bigger meter, the 1.5-inch. Now we start seeing some hotels and lodging type sites. We see some bigger fast food uses, the larger gas stations and travel centers. Start getting into those mid-size apartments. And we keep going up. We get to the 2-inch. Those are really starting to get the big water users. That's the car washes like Councilmember Rick asked about that use significant amount of water compared to a house. You got your big grocery stores. Those are pretty standard 2-inch users. Large government buildings, City Hall that we're sitting in today is a 2-inch water meter to serve the building and the grounds outside. And then on the very large end, you get into the big 3-inch meters. We only have a handful of those in the whole city. And on the commercial front, those really look like very large school complexes with the grounds. That's big manufacturing sites, which we don't have many of. And the other one we see is kind of the big mobile home parks that are master metered where all the water's going through a single meter. So when we're talking about these different meter sizes, we're really talking about a very small percent of our customer base as it stands right now. We would expect it to develop in kind of that same ratio in the future. And really, these are the kinds of uses we're talking about, just to help put that in your mind. I also want to recap one other really important point of emphasis before we actually get into the tap fees themselves, and that is understanding the difference between what is a water rate and what is a tap or connection fee. So a water rate is what sets the monthly bill that all existing customers pay. That is your water bill you receive every month, really based on the amount of water you use with some fixed fees just to have that water available. It comes in every month, and the point of that bill, the point of those water rates that are charged to customers is to pay to keep the utility running. It pays for things like the staff that operate the utility. It pays to treat and pump and move the water around and get it to your house. It pays for fixing leaks, and it pays for maintaining the system and the old parts as they age out. Everything related to keeping that utility functioning, making and treating water. What a water rate is not meant to pay for is the costs of new growth, which is typically debt. The utilities commonly take out debt, buy water rights, build treatment plants, build pipes, so that they have water waiting and ready for new growth. You have to pay that debt once it's out. The rates are not meant to pay off that debt for new growth. That is where we switch over to the tap fees. Unlike water rates, a tap fee is a one-time charge, an upfront charge for a new connection, or if you are renovating or redeveloping a site and you need a bigger meter, we would charge an upsized connection, but it is a one-time charge for access to the city's water system based on how much water you need, based on that meter size. The whole point of a tap fee is to reimburse the utility for those expenses that's already taken out to have that water waiting and ready. That's the debt to buy the water rights. That's the debt to build the treatment plants, build those pipes. That tap fee is meant to pay back that debt. It is not meant to be a revenue source to operate and run the utility day to day, just like the water rate is not meant to be a revenue source to pay off debt for new growth. And then the last slide that's a recap before we get into new numbers and the new approach is really just explaining why are we even discussing this? Why are we talking about updating our tap fees? Why are we addressing this? There's a few reasons why. The first and simplest is that our tap fees as they stand today have not changed since 2008. Those are the fees in that table in the upper right-hand corner. They range from the 3/4-inch to the 3-inch meter. We have a component that's the infrastructure fee. That's the cost to pay back that treatment plant, that pipeline, those projects. We have the water acquisition fee. That's the cost to pay back, that cost to secure water rights to fill those pipes. You add those two together, you get your total connection fee in the far right column. Those are the fees that we charge today for the different meter sizes. Beyond the fees simply being old, that's not a great basis for updating them. We've really scrutinized those heavily as we've looked at bringing new water online and preparing for new growth. And we've determined that our current fee system is not in any way equitable based on the impact that these bigger meters have on the water system. So to explain that, I first just want to introduce and kind of explain that concept of the single-family equivalent that we talked about briefly. That is this kind of hypothetical standard one-house use. A single-family equivalent is the water use of one house. It's a tool that helps us compare larger uses. Just like Councilmember Rick asked, a car wash uses 30 to 40 homes worth of water. That's effectively 30 to 40 single-family equivalents. If we have 600 commercial, we may have to take 40 of those just for one tap for a car wash. That's 40 single-family equivalents. So to explain why our fees are not equitable, really want to use kind of the extreme example of a big 3-inch irrigation park-style meter. Based on our data and analysis, the average 3/4-inch big irrigation-style meter uses more than 175 single-family equivalents worth of capacity. It uses water equal to 175 homes. If we sell one of those meters, that's 175 homes we cannot sell water for now. However, with our current fee structure, the tap fee that big 3-inch meter pays is only 10 times the fee of a home. We are allocating 175 homes worth of water. We are collecting 10 homes worth of fee. It is not an equitable approach, and it leads to other issues, namely paying back debt, and that has impacts on rates. If we undercollect on our fees, we are not adequately collecting money to pay off the debt that we have to make that water available. When we don't collect adequately on that debt, just like your mortgage, if you're not working at the current moment, you still have to pay your mortgage. The city, if we're not selling taps, we still have to make payments on that debt. So in order to fund those debt payments, we have to lean on our rate revenue, which if you go back the last slide, you'll recall rates are not intended to pay off debt for new growth. So when we are not properly collecting, we have to pull from our rate revenue. That's less money we have to run the utility. That makes it harder to run the utility, and it puts pressure on us to have to increase rates just to make sure that we can keep the system running. So under-collecting on tap fees provides pressure to increase water rates on existing customers. Those are customers who that money was not taken out to serve. That money was taken out to serve new growth that pays tap fees. And the final piece, really, that brings this all home is that this current fee approach we have right now really leads to unpredictable revenue in the future based on how we sell this water that we allocate for taps. And I'll use the same example I used last time just to kind of emphasize how extreme this can get with our current approach. As I said before, we are bringing on water that will enable about 2,000 single-family equivalents. Let's take two hypothetical examples. If we decided tonight that we were going to sell that water only to single-family households, we want to bring on 2,000 new single-family homes. We would sell 2,000 taps. We would bring in 2,000 times that connection fee up in the top right corner, $17,324. That's the cost of a water tap for a home. We would bring in almost $35 million in tap fee revenue. Coincidentally, that's very close to the amount of debt that we currently have that we are paying on that was taken out for new growth. If we sold our water just as homes, we could very nearly wipe out that debt. That would allow our rates to focus back on just running the system. That would ease pressure on any rate increases. If we take the other extreme end and we say we don't need homes, we don't need commercial, we want to sell this water as parks and sports fields. We want to use it for big outdoor irrigators just to make the extreme case on the other end. Like I showed above, one 3-inch big park meter uses over 175 homes worth of water. If we sold that same amount of water, 2,000 homes, and we allocated that just for big irrigation meters, we could only sell 11 3-inch taps with that same amount of water, 2,000 homes or 11 parks. At the current tap fees that we charge right now, those 11 park meters would bring us less than $2 million in tap fees. For the same amount of water that we made $35 million selling it as residential connections, we would make $2 million in tap fees. In that instance, we would still be carrying 30-something million of debt. We have no new water to sell for new tap fees. We still have to pay that debt. Our ratepayers have to bear rate increases to fund that debt and make sure we can still sustainably run the utility. So that really underscores why we do not like our current fee approach and why we are proposing to change how we structure and the amounts that we charge for our connection fees. So now we'll start moving into the actual details of what the new connection fees look like and how we arrived at those. And really, our approach, we started with a baseline of let's figure out what is the true cost today to have water to serve one single-family equivalent. We're bringing on 2,000 of those. Let's figure out what is the real cost right now to serve one of those. From that, we can start to scale it and look at how is that going to look for bigger meters. So, as I touched on before, our fee is made up of two components. We have the water acquisition fee. That is really the water rights fee, the cost to go buy water rights, take it to court, get it changed so that we can use it and take it into our system. We've used data over using recent water acquisition purchases over the last 20 or so years. We've adjusted that for inflation, scaled it, add legal costs, worked it all out, and it comes out to a little over $9,000 per single-family equivalent per household, just the cost to go buy and get water rights secured for a house. That is the water rights component for one single-family equivalent. We look at the infrastructure piece, that is the cost of building the pipes and the treatment plants, things to actually convert that water to a usable state and get it to our customers. And really the main cost in our recent history that drives that was Fountain's participation in the Southern Delivery System. We took out over $60 million principal and interest debt to participate in that project. Fortunate that we did, because it came online right as the PFAS crisis happened and we had an alternate source of water. But still, that was debt that was really taken out for new growth by and large. We look at how many connections that debt enabled. We work it out to a per single-family equivalent basis. We add on a little bit of an extra cost for the hardware. We have to go buy a physical water meter and install it in every single new connection that comes in. We take all of that and it works out to just a little over $10,000 per single-family equivalent for the infrastructure piece. So now we're going to add those two together, and based on that, our new proposed single-family residential 3/4-inch meter, the 1 SFE, is $19,300. So comparing that to our current fee, which is $17,324, that is a 12% increase we are proposing on the residential meter side. Personally, I'll say 12% increase from 2008. You're not going to find many other costs that have only increased that amount, but we feel that is a justifiable and defensible number for what a residential tap should cost. That's really the baseline where we started at, is what is that cost per SFE. So now, let's figure out how are we going to scale that cost to these bigger meters that use multiple SFEs worth of water. And this is really where we started coming up with a novel fountain-specific approach. First, after looking at the data, because we used fountain-specific data to derive all of this, we really quickly realized that having just one flat tap fee per meter size is really not a great approach. One size does not fit all in this case, and that's because we started seeing that the data pointed to two distinct types of users, even within the same meter size. And that is that we have commercial meters that are largely using that water inside their building for their process, maybe a bit of landscaping, but the water's going to some inside commercial use. And we have what are largely irrigation-driven accounts and a few others that fit that same type, where it is all outdoor water, it is extreme use in the summer, low use in the winter. Those two types of users have drastically different levels of impact on the water system. If we had created just one average tap fee for each meter size, the commercial meters would be overpaying for their impact. The irrigation meters would be underpaying for their impact. We're really trying to seek equity here to get people to pay their fair share. We didn't feel that that was a smart approach, so we felt it was reasonable to really split those out and have 2 separate tap fees per meter size. One for commercial uses, one for those irrigation type uses, which we are calling a seasonal peak use. And so to get into the data, we really analyzed over 7 years of commercial data from Fountain's existing commercial and irrigation customer base. That is the basis for everything we did. We did not want to use regional numbers. We did not want to use front range numbers. We did not want to use Colorado Springs data. We wanted this to be specific to how water is truly used in Fountain, to use the past trends to inform what we are going to expect future water use to look like from certain types of users and meters. And from that, we came up with a basis of how we are going to scale those dollars, those fees per SFE to the bigger meter sizes. The old common approach that most people use is they come up with a baseline fee, if it's $20,000 for a 3/4 inch meter, and they simply multiply it by 2 for a bigger meter, multiply it by 3 for a bigger meter than that, and that's kind of the basis. A simple, take the dollar and multiply it. We don't think that really reflects what we're trying to achieve here, which is to charge for the impact. And there's 2 different types of impacts that a new user has on city water. When we look at that water acquisition fee, that's the water rights fee, we do all of our planning and allocation for water rights on an annual basis. How many acre feet per year do we need to sustain the system, to sustain a certain use? So we're really looking at the total annual usage when we're eyeing that component. How much water do you use per year? That dictates how many water rights we need to secure for that development. So we feel that we need to take that half of the fee and scale it on annual usage. When we look at the infrastructure fee, we don't build a treatment plant for how much water can it produce in a year. We're looking at what can it make in that day that we need it to, that hot summer day when it's turned up to 100%, what is that peak day usage? That limits how many taps we can issue, and that's an infrastructure constraint that the infrastructure fee is meant to pay for. So when we look at the infrastructure fee, it doesn't make sense to scale that dollar based on annual usage. That's irrelevant to how our plants and system operate. We're going to scale that to how the peak day use compares between users. So here's a very technical page. I want you to ignore everything but that line with the yellow highlight at the bottom of that table. This is how we scaled the water acquisition fee. That's the water rights component of the fee. And again, we allocate on an annual basis. So we took every account in the city, looked at the past use, and we looked at what is the average annual usage for that size of meter and that type of meter for the commercial and the irrigation. We compared the annual average usage to the average annual usage of a residential single-family home. And we used that to scale the fee. So starting in the very first column, the 3/4 inch residential, that ratio is 1, and that's by definition. 1 3/4 inch residential meter is 1 single-family equivalent. 1 equals 1. When we compare a 3/4 inch commercial meter, we see, surprisingly, that on average, they actually use less water per year than a residential household meter. And so we want this to be a true, fair, and equitable approach. We're actually going to charge it a lower water acquisition fee because we need less water rights to serve the average 3/4 inch commercial meter. So that fee is actually lower. We move over to the seasonal peak. Remember, that's the irrigation style meter. They use almost 4 times as much water per year on average than your single family equivalent. That water rights fee is going to be almost 4 times higher. And we keep following that through all the way up to the high end where we're looking at the 3-inch meters. On average, a big 3-inch commercial meter uses over 24 times as much water per year than the average household. That fee is going to be 24 times higher. On the big irrigation style meters for 3-inch, it's over 100 times as much water per year than a single family house. That water rights fee should be over 100 times higher because we need 100 times the water rights to serve that one connection. So that's the basis for the water acquisition piece. We're going to do the same thing again on the infrastructure piece. We have to perform a bit more mathematical analysis and a bit more, a few factors and correction factors on this data to convert monthly usage to peak day and to correct for a few other factors because not every meter maxes out on the same day at the same time. Irrigation meters may have staggered schedules so that one meter is really high use on July 4th and a different meter isn't even watering that day, but they may water the next day. You have commercial uses where maybe it's high during the weekdays and it's closed during the weekends. You've got places that are high on the weekends, closed during the weekdays. So we applied some factors to correct for that, and that really helps to actually scale these numbers down and bring these costs down by using that correction factor. But even after we've applied that factor, we look again at that yellow line right there. Again, 3/4 inch residential, it's one by its very definition. It's 1 SFE. Commercial, they actually use about the same amount of water on a peak day as a residential, charge them the same infrastructure fee. You look at that 3/4 inch seasonal peak irrigation, the average one of those uses almost 7 times as much water on a peak day basis. We're gonna scale that infrastructure fee up by 7 times. We follow that through all the way up to the high end. Again, I'm gonna use the example of that big 3-inch ballpark irrigation meter. On a peak day basis, it uses more than 177 times as much water in that one day as our average residential home. We're making that infrastructure fee reflect that by being 177 times higher. So we take all of that information, that's a lot of numbers, a lot of technical stuff, and we compile it into what is the new proposed water connection fee schedule. Like I said, we have it broken out for separate fee for commercial uses, separate fee for the seasonal peak irrigation style uses, and then we have our standard 3/4 inch residential up at the top. Again, I've included those examples of what the meter sizes are down at the bottom just to help refresh your memory, but these are the fees that we are looking at. On that residential fee, it's the $19,300. That's the 12% increase over existing. The commercial is actually lower. If you'll recall, they use less water per year on average, so their acquisition fee, their water rights fee, is lower. So that's actually only a 6% increase over the current 3-inch meter fee, which is applied across the board. As we scale up, you see that even within the meter sizes, those seasonal peak, those irrigation use meters have a much higher fee because their impact both on the water rights and the infrastructure side is much higher than the commercial one. And we get all the way up to that 3-inch meter right there. That's a big number. That's almost 2.7 million for a 3-inch outdoor irrigation style park meter. But if you'll recall, with our current fee, we can only serve 11 of those. It's less than $2 million. With this approach right here, if somehow all of our water went to 11 of those meters, we're now collecting about $30 million in tap fees. That's very close to how much we would make through any other meter size we're looking at, including that 2,000 residential meter. It really scales and levels the playing field across the board so that no matter how Fountain's water gets allocated and sold for new connections, it is equitable and it is creating the same amount of money to pay back that impact that those fees put. So I'm going to pause there for a second. I threw a lot of numbers at you, a lot of information. I'm going to open it up for questions before I move on to the next 2 items and ask for a vote.
I'm just going to make one comment for all you kids out there listening. If you don't think you use math in your real job, talk to him, okay? Okay. Yeah. Councilmember Rick and then Councilmember Keek.
So going back to the original question I asked, I believe you said like a mechanic shop or a gas station will only use 1 SFE.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so those would be the small businesses that typically we try and attract. And based off this slide here, we're actually going to charge them less than what a person buying a house would pay. Is that correct?
That is correct. We wanted to accurately reflect what is their impact on the water system, and those small business style meters on average have a lower impact than a house, actually.
Okay, that's all the questions I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Geek. And then Councilmember Verhoff.
Taylor, I'm just concerned about how do these proposed rates compare to surrounding municipalities?
Can I just correct you one? They're fees,
Fees.
not rates?
Fees.
I don't want to confuse.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification.
I just don't want to confuse it for the
Yeah.
people listening in. I know you knew what you meant, but
So these do put us higher than many of our surrounding utilities. We are not the highest in the region. There's 1 or 2 utilities up north in the Monument area that actually have higher fees, but this does put us much higher. However, really, we came at this from the perspective, we are not trying to compete with and compare against those. We are trying to accurately reflect what is the true cost to Fountain to have that water ready. We need to properly pay back that debt based on impact so that our ratepayers are not carrying that debt. And this is the true cost of that impact. We feel that this is very justified.
Okay, Councilmember Verhoff, and then Councilmember Hersberg.
Taylor, just a little bit on the debt piece. My recollection is that Dan said that we had the lowest interest rate that we could possibly get for our current debt. So with the new additional money that we'd get for this, would it go to paying off debt, or would it be put in a holding account for that because of the fact currently have the lowest interest rate possible for that?
No, we need to pay the debt with this revenue source. So I've been working with the city manager and the finance department to set up accounts so that we can account for the revenue and then also account for the expenditure. And so it is in the best interest of the utility, because we don't earn any interest. We don't have a savings account to earn interest to offset that. So we would be using this revenue to retire the debt and keep that burden off the existing ratepayers.
And then with I guess, come back to me.
Come back, okay, Councilmember Hersberg.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. As always, your information, well-resourced, well-communicated.
Thank you.
I like the fact that we all recognize how precious water is in our state, and we have to pay for that precious asset. What you put out here is very analytical. It's very clear. I see it as being very equitable and fair. It collects on our debt for growth, and it protects our ratepayers from undue raises in their rates. And I like that it's prepared specifically for Fountain. We don't need to worry about what the neighbors up the road are doing. What we need to focus on is what's happening right here. And I think that what you've done clearly communicates that. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council members? Councilmember Estes, and then Councilmember Verhoff. Is there any way to turn that off? That's just driving me nuts. Keep catching the cowboy out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, what movie am I missing, you know? Go ahead, Councilmember Estes. Or, no, everybody has to watch Dan, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he's entertaining.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
So I just want to go back to why we would pay off the debt, because that would help us not raise the rates again. It also helps our bonding capacity in the future if we need to have a project down the line.
Absolutely.
And that does, again, we don't like to have debt because it affects us long-term. So that's the benefit of doing this.
Absolutely. And there's another component too that, as I understand, the utilities debt really affects the overall city's ability to bond. It affects the city's bond rating. So the utility carrying a large debt load, not only detrimental to the utility, but it has potential impacts on the broader city if there were other non-utility things that were wished to be bonded for.
I think Dan unplugged the wrong thing. What did you do? Oh, my goodness. I'm teasing you. I'm just teasing you. You know that, right? Councilmember Verhoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Going back to it a little bit on this, you went through the percentages with the residential increase. That would be a 12% increase on residential. For those who aren't doing the quick math on this one, what's the approximate percentage down the line?
Let me see if I have that sheet somewhere. If not, I can give you the very rough percentages.
I didn't understand your question. You kind of mumbled. Could you, what was the what?
Taylor went over the residential, fairly clear on what the percentage increase for the tap fee would be for the residential. I asked what it would be, what the approximate would be down the line.
Oh, for the okay, on the chart. Okay, thank you.
Yep, there we go. Thank you. Dan saves the day. All right. So would you like the percent for each of those compared to the current one as I go down?
If you don't mind for the record.
Sure. So the 3/4 inch residential is a 12% increase. The 3/4 inch commercial is a 6% increase. The seasonal peak 3/4 inch, that irrigation meter, is a 495% increase. Currently, all uses pay one size fits all tap fee of $17,000. That irrigation seasonal peak use has an outsized impact on water. We are proposing that it pays its fair share. That is almost 5 times higher than the existing fee it would pay currently. The 1-inch CII meter would pay, what is that? Pay 186% more, so almost triple the cost for that one. We were drastically under collecting on that under our current fee approach. The 1-inch seasonal peak is 407% increase over existing. Again, that is those park irrigation meters paying for the actual impact they place. The 1.5-inch meter is a 119% increase over. The 1.5-inch seasonal peak is a 407% increase. The 2-inch commercial is a 191% increase, so almost triple again. And then the 2-inch seasonal peak is a 669% increase. The 3-inch commercial is a 160% increase over. And the 3-inch seasonal peak is a 1,400% increase over the existing.
Thank you. And I guess I would say to this that with us being the most expensive water utility in the region, for the southern half of the county anyway.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to interrupt you. Is that correct, what he just stated?
In the southern half of the county, we would have the highest fees, yes.
Okay, if you look in the southern half of the county, but the
Yes.
entire county?
No, there are, even with these fees, except for that 3-inch seasonal peak, there are other utilities that would have higher commercial-style fees than us.
Thank you, okay.
I think that what this is going to do is it's going to make Fountain very business and friendly because of the higher cost it would take to, if we wanted somebody that was going to develop a business here, with our rates being higher than everywhere else in the region, I think that the businesses and the home builders would look at Fountain and say, we're the highest in the region. Why not wait for Colorado Springs to annex all around us and have them and put the houses at that point in that spot? To be fair, I find this very hard to justify this much of an increase with every other utility in the area having a lower rate than us.
And I would just clarify that these are the fees, not the rates. We want to make that clear distinction.
My apologies.
And really, at that point, that would be a policy-level decision to be made by council. We are just trying to propose numbers that are equitable and fair, but if council wishes to take that approach to incentivize growth to come in, that is your prerogative.
Okay, I believe this is the Councilmember Estes, and then Councilmember Rick, and then Councilmember, your light's not on. Hertzberg, okay.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First off, on the 3/4 inch for the residential, we don't sell the taps for seasonal peak. We're selling for residential or CII, right? We don't sell a seasonal peak
We
tap.
do not have, are you talking existing right
Yeah,
now?
for that, the 102, we don't charge that because we're going to charge one of those 2 in that 3/4 inch.
For a residential house?
Yeah.
All the water goes through 1 meter, so it may
Right.
branch after the meter, and some goes out to the yard, some goes into the house, but that would still be a one
Right.
single residential tap fee, the
My
19,000.
question is, that's the 19,366, and the CII is the 18,447. We don't sell a seasonal peak 3/4 inch tap.
We do not currently. If someone
so-
came in wanting to get a meter just to put it for a smaller park or
So-
some type of outdoor use, that would be the fee they would pay.
Okay.
Because that would be the impact
It's
they
like I
put on
said,
the
it's an
system.
uncommon thing.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. The second question is, again, go back to that first slide with the pie chart. The majority of our water taps are 3/4 inch taps. So I disagree with Councilmember Veerhoff. This is not business unfriendly because the majority of our businesses are using that 3/4 inch tap.
Yes, that is the largest percentage of the commercial size meters we have. That's the common size for a small business style use, if you will.
Yeah.
Councilmember Rick and then Councilmember Hertzberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Dan, this is for you. Currently, if my memory serves me correctly, 30% of the money we pull in from our ratepayers is going to retire the debt. Is that
Yeah, approximately. It's actually closer to 35, based
Okay.
on last year's rate revenue of slightly over $10 million and a debt payment of $3.5 million. Now, just to clarify, of that $3.5 million, about $600,000 is debt associated with system improvements that benefited the ratepayers. So it's actually $2.9 million is attributable to the debt.
okay? So if we don't pass this, we're going to have to continue to charge our current ratepayers to retire the debt. Is that correct?
Yes, well, we will, yes, we will, they will continue to pay, and there will be a continued upward pressure on the rates. But the burden for what we're under collecting is passed on to the ratepayers, because that's the only other source of funding to pay that mortgage that Taylor talked about.
Okay, so we've either got to charge new users to retire the debt, or we have to keep charging our current users.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hertzberg and then Councilmember Veerhoff.
Thank you. You know, and just as a reminder, when Taylor opened up his discussion, we haven't changed these fees since 2008. So this is really a reset, and it's a more equitable reset that really reflects the value of the water and our needs as the city of Fountain. So I don't see this as being unfriendly to businesses in any way. And also to Councilmember Estes' point, the vast majority of those who would be purchasing these taps are going to be in that 3/4 inch category where the business actually pays less than the residential homeowner. So, so from where I see it, this is a long time coming, since 2008. A lot of fair analytics have been put into what should be charged to really account for the water that it's being used. And so I don't think that it's a poor reflection on Fountain in any way, business or otherwise.
Councilmember Veerhoff.
With the current rate structure, if we keep on the current trajectory, correct me if my numbers are wrong on this, Taylor, we would get approximately $34 million, correct?
That,
Do you mean a fee structure?
For the fee structure.
Thank you.
that would entirely depend on how the water goes out the door effectively. That's what we were trying to correct, is that if every drop of water we have goes only to 3/4 inch households, then yes, we could expect that we would bring in 30-something million. However, if we have big users come in and they want to pay for those big 2-inch, 3-inch meters, we are effectively losing money and losing debt payment on each of those meters versus how many taps they take out. We may lose millions of dollars that we could have sold for homes for each 3-inch park meter that goes out the door under the current fee structure that it sells, because we would lose the ability to sell 175 homes water. So this is trying to correct the upper kind of echelon of those tap fees on the bigger users where it undercollects currently.
And then the correction that I had was that if we adopt this new fee structure, it would, and the majority of it goes to small businesses and residential, then we would only be collecting approximately $6 million more. Is that correct?
I haven't run the numbers, but that sounds pretty close, yeah.
So.
And if I may, the intent with the fee update isn't to try and just squeeze more money out of the fees. It really is trying to make sure that the bigger users are paying back the equitable amount. We're not just trying to make more money across the board with this approach. We're trying to do it equitably for the lower users and the bigger users. If more of the businesses come in that are those 3/4 inch meters, we're not making $3 million per meter, but we have more water to serve more of those uses, which is the benefit.
So, and then to the last bit of my question, if the amount of money we receive is more than the amount of debt that we're gonna receive, or than we currently have, what's the intended purpose on the additional money received out of those tap fees?
That is the debt is the principal amount. We pay interest every year on that. And so that the principal plus interest will exceed the amount that we will collect.
We have, what's the amount of debt we have?
It's in the upper 30s is the $38 million of debt. 36 or $38 million is attributable to growth.
Okay.
Debt principal.
And if,
Yeah, and that's the principal amount. And so we pay principal and interest on that.
I guess what I'm saying is there'd still be about approximately $2 million of additional funding out of if the current, or if the new tap rate were exceeded and we did mostly residential.
If we
Would be my
sold them right out of the chute and paid off our debt, yes. But as time goes by, that we have to pay the interest. So this will not, because we anticipate that this could potentially, I mean, this additional water resources could last for 10 years. And during that period, as we continue to pay our debt payments, it's principal plus interest.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yep.
Gordon, I see you, but I have a real quick question. Todd, sorry to drag you into the discussion, but I won't say your email address, so, okay. I won't say your email address, so. I think everybody's got it memorized by now. The average number of homes built per year.
I mean, if we forecast, and we're looking at Aspen Ranch building out, we're looking at Ventana South continuing to build out. We've got Corvallis that's going to be coming online. We've got Mesa Ridge coming online.
Right, just give me an average number of years for houses that we
got
issue occupancy permit.
3,500 new homes. I think realistically, 60 to 120 homes a year, depending on the market.
Okay, so average that out, 100 homes a year.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that, to clarify, that is citywide in areas that are not served by the city's water utility, just
thank you for
to add that
clarifying that.
context.
Okay, so that would probably be less. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Rick?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dan, let's play hypothetical.
Okay.
Hypothetically, whole bunch of users come in here in the next year, and in 3 years, we collect the 30 whatever million dollars that we need to pay off our debt. Okay? How much are we going to have to spend to build the reservoir coming off of Fountain Creek, to build the water treatment plant that we would need to treat that water coming off Fountain Creek, and additional storage so we could store the water to put it into our system? Approximately, how much debt would that be?
We are, in fact, Taylor's working on that project, and we have a grant from El Paso County that we've been utilizing to do the preliminary design and preparing for permitting. But also part of that is doing the estimate of cost, and currently it stands at $100 million to utilize all of our remaining unused water rights on Fountain Creek. And that $100 million would create about 5,500 SFEs. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so even if we increase the fees and we magically collect all the money for the debt, we're still going to have another 100 million that we're going to have to spend if we want to get enough to maximize our water usage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I know there's got to be some questions out in the audience, but I really think that we need to go ahead onto the next section because I'm sure there's questions people have about what if you're already in line,
Absolutely.
right? So before we get, then we'll open it up to questions in the audience, because it's a lot of information, but I think that next piece is really important and might answer some of those questions that are going to come up.
Yes,
So-
ma'am. So we have two more items. They're much shorter, much simpler, and then we will get to the last discussion item, request the votes. So this is an old business item that was brought up at the last council meeting when we brought these, the fee information to council, and we heard feedback that you would like to see some kind of process or policy so that projects that are in progress right now, commercial projects working through the city's queue effectively, would not be negatively impacted by these substantial increases. Those projects have already expended considerable time and money, consultant fees, other things, developing plans. They've already performed their financial analyses to make sure that the money works out for them. Those analyses were almost certainly based on the old water connection fee, and adding a new fee increase to them in the middle of their process could harm the project or even potentially kill the project. So recognizing that the city did not want to be in a position to discourage or harm those projects, and based on council feedback, we have come up with a draft policy to put in front of you that would protect or insulate those in-progress commercial sites from facing these increased fees. And so what we are proposing tonight is a resolution with a policy. First, we have qualifying criteria, who this would apply to. We have set that as an owner or developer who is in the active, who has an active commercial application in with City of Fountain Planning, or acknowledging that there are some sites where a developer may prep the land, but they are not going to pull the building permit. They are not the one who actually pays that tap fee. They're going to sell a prepared lot with a water stub to somebody else who's going to build their building on it. We also opened it up to an end user who has some kind of contract, agreement, letter of intent, some form of engagement with the developer who has an active project, so that they can qualify too, because even though it may not be their plans in the city's queue right now, they are the end user who would be paying that tap fee and who is banking on that old fee. So those are the two groups that we are proposing will be eligible to retain the old tap fee. And then as far as the actual mechanics of how that would work, we would reach out to these identified commercial users that fit those criteria, and we would offer them to enter into a tap reservation agreement that would allow them within the next 60 days. We would seek a deposit upfront in the amount of the old fee they are being locked in for. That would ensure that when they get to that building permit stage and their normal fees would be due, which is at the building permit stage, once their plans are approved, they would be locked in for the tap fee. That deposit would be converted into the tap fee payment, and they would not owe anything else for these increased connection fees that new users will face. The one other side to that is that if the project disappears, if it does not get approval, if they back out or walk away, that land is treated as new commercial land where somebody else is approaching it from a fresh standpoint. They would have to perform their analyses with the new connection fees and be subject to the new connection fees. We don't want to permanently confer some reduced tap fee right to land. Really, we want to respect the users, the identified commercial users that are in the process right now who are banking on those old tap fees. So that is the policy we are proposing tonight to ensure that we are not negatively impacting those in-progress commercial users. And then just to close us out, I will give the last item, the simplest one. This is simply the second reading of Ordinance 1818. This is repealing the prior connection fee. This is the final kind of housekeeping item for everything we've talked about tonight. As we said, our current fees were established in 2008. They were established by ordinance. In order to repeal those, we have to remove it by ordinance. That requires 2 readings, and this is simply the second reading of that, so that if council votes and approves the new fees, we remove the old fees, and we now have a consistent chain of connection fees in place. And so finally, I will now put it before you. These are the 3 items in the order that you would like to discuss, in the order that votes would come up, and I will kick it over to council for questions and comments on any of these items.
Okay, bring it back up here to council. Any questions, comments on anything? Councilmember Verhoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the prepaid deposit, one of the issues with a lot of development is getting the cash and capital available in order to do those items. Have we taken into consideration that as part of these projects, some of the processes is getting the loans and everything to get these buildings built, and the capital might not be available in that window?
So Sean, help me run through that again, if you would.
So hypothetically, you're a business owner trying to build in Fountain. You've started the process.
Okay.
Part of that process is either paying cash for it or going and getting the loans to be able to build on that site.
So like for your construction loan?
For your construction loan or the business loans and everything through the SBA or other means. That capital might not be available to some of these people for those tap fees at the time we pass this resolution. And I'm wondering if that might hurt the people who are trying to come here and try to be in the middle of that project, because we're demanding the money today for their building that could be upwards of 2 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to be and could be an issue for someone as any cost as you're penciling out a project. Now, we have in the past with projects small and large found incentive programs that assist with some of those costs. And even if this may not be eligible, which it could be, we can help in other areas. So we're always willing to sit down with businesses and come up with different ways that we can help work their way through that capital piece.
And if I may add on one piece to that may make it more understandable. Right now, with those eligibility criteria that we have, there are what we are tracking as 6 end users that would prospectively qualify. Each of those is a large corporate chain company that has cash flow and capital to be able to do that. There are no small businesses in the queue that would be working through loans where the dollars we're talking about would be tough.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Rick.
Just one. Dan and Taylor, at the previous meeting, we said that we wanted the option of if a company came in here and presented a economic opportunity for the city, that we could waive, reduce, lower these fees. Is that in the language of these resolutions?
No, but that's your prerogative at any time, too, as part of an economic development incentive package.
Okay.
Then the reason why we're proposing that you adopt the rates, I'm guilty. Guilty as charged. I use the words rate. The reason why we're proposing and recommending that you adopt the new connection fees as part of as a resolution is that it's a one-time action by the city council. So you won't have to do anything different, but to approve a different resolution that would enable you to provide any form of economic incentive that you so choose to any prospective business.
Okay.
And Councilman Rick, just to add on to that, we and Councilman Veerhoff, we frequently do incentives. You don't ever want to say always, but we frequently do incentive package with different types of areas that they need assistance in, both small and large.
Okay. I just want to make sure we don't need anything special to do that. That's all I had, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Dan, we had a program in place when a nonprofit Habitat was doing some builds here in the community where we did deferred tap fees, which meant that we didn't waive the tap fee. It becomes due when the house sells with interest. In the meantime, they're living in the home, having a affordable housing, using water, paying the bills and stuff. That would still be available if a nonprofit were to come to us under that scenario again.
Yeah, absolutely. Same answer. Exact same answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's a lot of information, and so if there's any questions out there, tap fees are a one-time fee. I only have to pay it one time, and making it more equitable. So is there anybody in the audience that has any comments about that? Please come up there and state your name for the record, please. There you go. Thank you.
Ryan Case with Case International. We
Madam
are
Clerk, or do we have the
interested
timer
in
running?
doing work in Fountain, and we are in a real estate investment company out of Colorado Springs. Madam Mayor and Marcia, council member, and Sean, I appreciate your comments thinking globally, because we look globally as far as a region, and so we are looking at doing business in Fountain and want to. We believe there's opportunities there, but compared to other municipalities, specifically Colorado Springs, the fees don't compete. And so that's very difficult to want to come to do business here. Specifically, we've got tap fees, and these numbers are a little bit dated from what they've got, but the increase in tap fees is, compared to Colorado Springs, is a $6,234 tap fee difference comparing to Colorado Springs. And then if we're talking about the 1-inch tap fee, Colorado Springs is at $22,000, and then you're looking at $91,000 for Fountain for 2026. That's a $69,000 difference. That's going to make us want to go do business elsewhere, and that's going to talk about burger shops, all the different users that we've discussed today. We're going to want to go do business elsewhere. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, and that's for home building, that's for commercial users, that's all the above. The single-family taps compared here in Fountain at $19,000. Colorado Springs is at $13,000. So that is a competitive analysis. And so when we're looking at doing business regionally, even north and south, that's a very real factor. When we're looking at demographics down here as well, and population, as well as water availability, those are factors that we're looking at when we're looking at projects. And so those are factors that impact our projects in timing as well. And so we understand the debt that needs to be paid. While I say that that's a problem and fees need to be paid, we understand that, but I also want to say that we like to present solutions sometimes. So while we may go somewhere else, I know I also am a part of the Colorado Springs HBA, and we have presented some proposals as to how fees could be done that help grow the community at large. And so I just invite the comments on that, and appreciate you guys taking the time to discuss all of this, because it's very real. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comments. I think we all are aware up here regionally what tap fees are. I believe the rest of them are going to be behind the 8 ball. I think you're going to start seeing them all realize that they need to charge more for tap fees. Love the HBA. Been to several of your dinners, rubbed elbows with everybody. But honestly, I hear y'all go to Colorado Springs and complain about them, and then you come down here and complain about that. And so, it's the cost. But I answer to the voters in the city of Fountain. And the voters in the city of Fountain have made it very clear from the minute I moved to this community, they want growth to pay its way. And Colorado Springs has a much larger population to distribute that growth amongst, more population, more businesses. And so their tap fees potentially can afford to be lower, and how they handle their debt is their business on how they handle their debt. But I do appreciate your comments, and I know we're all aware of it, but we answer to our citizens that actually pay the bills and live in this community. So thank you, though. Anybody else that wanted to come down and say something? Come down and state your name for the record, please.
Steve Arce. So one, let me start off by saying, Councilwoman Herzberg, I 100% agree with what you're saying, is that we should not be comparing ourselves to the other entities, because we do have to protect a resource that is finite and one that is basically going to become gold. Can you go back to the slide that has the rates, though, with
The fees, let's.
fees? Sorry.
Thank you.
You know,
We're a little
it's
touchy.
y'all's
We're a little
fault.
touchy.
It's y'all's fault. Okay.
I'm guilty.
So, on the, right. So on the connection fees, and these are new connection fees. So a business that comes into a building that already has a water connected to it would not be paying this fee.
Unless they're seeking to increase the size of the water going to that building because they have a new,
What?
bigger need,
Okay,
there would be no
what
fee.
if, because that was my other question about it. So, the 3/4 inch commercial, that is what is normal, right? But that 3/4 commercial wants to come in and do something where they're actually gonna use a seasonal peak. Again, rare. However, they're changing business, whatever the case might be. Would they pay a difference?
They would pay the difference of those two
The
fees.
difference of
Yes,
the
sir.
two, okay. And just out of curiosity, Because my understanding is, out of those 3-inch ones, whether if they were 3-inch seasonal peaks, 11, right? 11 is approximately what you got. What was the last one of those that came to Fountain?
I honestly couldn't tell you. It's been a long time. It's
Anybody?
probably a school property would be my guess, and I do not know what that would be. Yeah,
So
most
we're
likely high
not,
school.
so we're not selling 11 of those
They're not going off the
anytime
shelves
soon,
quick. Yeah.
right? Okay. And so as long as I'm clear on that, so those were the biggest ones, was that if a business already comes into a regular building, they're not going to be paying this, or maybe a difference if they are changing their business models.
Absolutely.
And that we don't, and my feeling, because y'all's know from conversations with me, I'm not saying I'm not pro-business, but I'm very protective of our community and what we have for resources. So I'm totally okay with this. I trust your math. I've actually followed your math quite a bit, so kudos.
Thank you.
But yeah, if the majority of it is that, I'm not really seeing the problem on that.
Yeah, because almost 98% of our taps are 3/4 inch.
And again, businesses coming in that are already going to use that are not going to pay this connection fee.
Correct. Thank
Just
you.
the rates. Got it. Okay. I just had to get fee in one more time.
Thank you very much.
That's okay. We've been practicing all week. All right. Anybody else in the audience? Please. Yeah, no, I would like to let someone new come up, please. You've already had your turn, so thank you. That's okay. Point the middle button there and state your name. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. My name is Adam McDonald. I live here in Fountain since 2012. The Army brought me here. So, fees. I agree with Mr. Sean about might be stalling the new growth of these new fees. About bring somebody else in and it's like, all right, well, we're going to go somewhere else because the fees are too expensive. And will the new tap fees, would you think that would add to the cost of the home? You know, so that's what I'm after. And it's like, we're already struggling. I'm struggling. I'm almost 90 grand a year and I'm struggling. If they add more fees and more cost to this home build, new home build, you know, people are like, oh, I can't buy a new home.
You're absolutely correct that any fee increase is most likely going to be a pass-through cost by the builder to the end price of that home. And really, that's where we're happy and fortunate that that residential fee is very nominal increase. The way we approach this ensured that we were trying to reflect the actual impact, and that was only a 12% increase on that fee, about $2,000 extra, unlike some of these other ones which are going up much more. But you're absolutely correct that that would likely be a pass-through cost reflected in the price of the home for that $2,000 extra for the residential fee.
All right, roger that.
I didn't catch your name.
Adam?
Adam. Your last name, Adam?
McDonald, like the gourmet restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who has not come up yet? Please come down and state your name for the record.
Frank Carrick. In 60 years, we have continually compared ourselves and our growth to Colorado Springs and Pueblo. And we want to keep our city employees in that price range of salaries as close as we can because we don't want to lose them to Colorado Springs. So that's one point. We do compare ourselves. We must compare ourselves. We are a bedroom community. We aren't attracting nice restaurants and big business. Now, I know you guys talk about these businesses that you have on the hook, or they have us on the hook, whatever. So there are some businesses coming in that John Q. and I don't know what they are. But what I see up on the Mesa is fast food and King Soopers. So Buc-ee's, they're not interested in us. And frankly, I'm not interested in Buc-ee's. If they want to stay up north, let them stay up north. I'm done with the beavers. I tell my guests to use a flashlight now when they come to the house because my utilities are constantly going up. My water rate is not what it was 25 years ago when we moved in that house. I'm not worried about a tap because I'm not going to have to buy a tap. But you're absolutely right. Those tap fees are put on the cost of the house. And so the cost of the houses, what might have been, because everything is going up, those houses out there in Aspen View are about $500,000 now. And I'm just not sure that for us to raise our tap fees is going to entice business to come here. We're having a hard enough time now, and we are the highest priced with our taps. I think Pueblo West is what, 22,000, do you know, Tyler?
I have it on a sheet, not at home, probably back at the office. They are somewhere in the 20, maybe even 30,000 range. There are a handful in the county and down in Pueblo County that have tap fees in the upper 30s to 40,000s per home.
Where is that, I'm sorry?
There are some northern entities up in the Monument area, and Pueblo West is also a higher number, I
And
know that.
we don't compare with those northern entities. I'm told that all the time. So I'm a little nervous about this. And I would like to have growth in Fountain, but we're not breaking down the doors right now. I don't think. And I think we do need to compare ourselves to surrounding areas. Thank you.
Just to make it clear, the only other way to retire the debt is to keep raising your monthly water rate if we don't go with this equitable program. I just want to, I understand what you're saying, but, yeah.
I understand. And my water rates right now are sky high. I don't know what they are in Colorado Springs. I read on social media that they're paying a lot, but I pay a lot for my water rates too. How long have we had this debt?
I believe SDS was 2018?
Right. Right.
Okay.
So it reminds me of the roads. We had developers in here that did not take care of putting those roads in the way they should have been when that was developed. And now we need to figure out a way to fix the roads on the backs of the people who have lived here for 60 years. And it's always about raising taxes or raising the rates. I don't know that this is the wrong way. Or the right way. I'm just voicing my concerns, that's
okay.
all.
Yeah, it's okay. That's what we're here for. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to reiterate, because I think it's important when you think about inflation and average inflation, 2 or 3% a year, we've not raised these fees since 2008, and this is only 12%. So I just ask that we keep in mind the math there, okay? So the first fee increase since 2008, it's only 12%, and our small businesses, which is the vast majority, along with residential, small businesses actually pay less. So let's just keep it in perspective. I know it sounds like a lot, but when we focus on what do we have here in Fountain, over 90% are in the smallest category, and in the smallest category, we actually are charging less to the businesses that are the vast majority in the city. So I just want us to keep that in mind.
Thank you. All right, anybody else who has not had a turn? Anybody online?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, you can have like one more minute, okay? We usually don't give people a second bite at the apple, but
No, I don't have anything to say. I just appreciate you. As a new investor looking at the city, those are our concerns, so appreciate the time.
right. Thank you for coming down tonight. Really appreciate it. Yes. Your mic's not on.
I had it on a minute ago. The average rate of inflation since 2008 has been 2.3%, so you can do some easy math on that, just relative to the inflation. But I wanted to actually just pause for a moment, and this kind of comes back to a couple comments that have been made, and actually including what Fran said, because oftentimes our solutions to some of our problems are by putting it on the backs of our own customers, right? This is a case where you really have two decisions. You have a decision on, because there's really no debate on the overall cost, right? The cost of the water, the cost of the infrastructure, there's really no debate about that. The debate is how you're going to pay for it. Are you going to put it on the back of our existing ratepayers, or are you going to put it on the backs of growth? Now, the proposal in front of you is to put it on growth, but it also allows you to incentivize that growth. So if you put it on the ratepayers, you are essentially incentivizing that growth through the rates, right? If you put it this way, where it's kind of blatantly out there, I'll use the extreme, the 3%, the almost 7 million. It's out there, the amount is on growth, but the council still has the ability to incentivize that growth, however you choose to do it. But what this does is it makes sure that that incentive is out there, it's transparent, it's public. So it's not hidden in a rate somewhere on the back of our ratepayers. It's out there right in front of the community, right in front of the council, whoever those council members may be at the time that that business comes in, and whoever our community is at the time. But that's what this tries to do. And really, at the end of the day, that's really that choice, that policy decision, what it comes down to, on the backs of our community or on the backs of the business, because there really isn't a debate on the cost, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back up here to the dais if anybody has any final comments they would like to make before they vote on anything. Councilmember Estes?
I just looked, it's from 2008 to today, there's been a 51% increase in inflation. So our 12% is
I don't know if
in line.
can everybody hear that out there? Oh,
There's a 51% increase from inflation from 2008 to today. So what cost $100 in 2008 costs $151 today.
that's why we're all feeling it in our wallets, huh? Everywhere. Okay, this is a really difficult subject, and it's kind of interesting we're here because of the generosity of one of our neighbors next door who has some extra water that they're willing to lease us for a number of years. And it's led to some very, very interesting conversations, you know. And let me tell you, you need to encourage your kids to math. Give him a call or Dan, because you know, kids sit in math classes and you think, where am I ever going to use this, right? Well, you were using a lot of it, and so thank you very much. I do not. I mean, I understand this appears on the surface to be very business unfriendly. However, I just cannot justify continuing 10% rate increases year after year after year on our average citizens to keep retiring this debt if there is an alternative way to look at it, which is more equitable. And the fact that the majority of the businesses coming in are in the smaller TAP. So I really appreciate everybody's conversations and comments. And this is going to be out there and honest. And I appreciate the fact, Gordon, the point that you brought up, making sure that people who are in the queue are kept whole. I think that's very, very important. And you guys did great math on that again, too. So thank you very much. And Councilmember Verhoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Overall, I think this is going to really hurt us across the board. And I think Fountain's already hard enough to start a business in. Adding an increase to the water rates is going to be insult to injury. So I do think that will be voting no on this issue, but I do appreciate the time, Madam Mayor.
It's difficult to start a business. I've started in a couple states, and it's difficult to start a business anywhere. Each community is unique in what it has, and each business is unique to what you offer. And about time you get it figured out, they come along and they add a different fee, or the fire department changes something on you, right? And it's just a matter of adjusting. And I think just knowing the fees up front is fair, and not being surprised at the end. So with that, I have not read these resolutions in, so I'm going to read them one at a time, and then we will take motions from the floor unless we have any further discussion or questions. Okay, Resolution 26-008, a resolution adopting new water system connection fees. What would council like to do with that? Councilmember Rick, Councilmember Hersberg.
Move to approve Resolution 26-008.
A second.
Okay, any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Five yes, one no. Councilmember Veerhoff voting no, motion carried.
Councilmember Geek, did you have something to say? Sorry. Okay, thank you. Resolution 26-010, a resolution creating a process for in-progress commercial developments to pay water connection fees in the amounts existing prior to the 2026 water system connection fee update. What would council like to do with that? Councilmember Hersberg.
Move to approve Resolution 26010.
Councilmember Rick.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Five yes, one no. Councilmember Veerhoff voting no, motion carried.
Councilmember Geek, did you have something to say?
I'm going to have to make a sign. Turn off your light.
All right. Make sure I read the correct one. Second reading of ordinance 1818, repealing prior authorizations relating to water connection fees and tap fees. What would council like to do with that? Councilmember Estes.
I move to approve ordinance 1818 on second reading.
Councilmember Harsberg.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Five yes, one no. Councilmember Veerhoff voting no, motion carried.
All right. Does any council members want to say anything? Sometimes people want to explain their vote after something that's a little tough. That's fine. Okay. They're hard decisions, but growth needs to pay its way, is what we've heard for years. All right, that takes us on to new business. Item 9A, considerations of item removed from the consent agenda. There were none. Item 9B, first reading of ordinance 1819, an ordinance repealing and reordering Title 15, Public Safety, Chapter 15.04, Fire Code of the Fountain Municipal Code, and adopting by reference the 2021 edition of the International Fire Code with appendices and amendments. Mr. Graham, Chief Graham.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Essentially, what you just said is what we're asking you to do, recommending repealing and replacing the currently adopted version of the International Fire Code, which is the 2015, replacing that with the 2021 version. As far as impact to the community, will be virtually zero to the residential occupancies within the city limits of Fountain, with a few more restrictive codes coming online for future commercial growth. Right now, there is a movement amongst all 23 fire districts within El Paso County to
adopt the 2021 version. Most either already have or are fixing to. They're in the same timeframe that we are right now. PPRBD has already moved and moved to the 2021 version of the IFC, so we'd be in lockstep with them. Just as a reminder, this is a item that we covered in the November work session, but I certainly would entertain any questions.
Okay, any questions from council members up here? I just really appreciate us being on the same fire code as everyone else. I know there's been times in Fountain's history when we were kind of off, and I think this makes it very business friendly, because if you design a McDonald's in Colorado Springs or Monument or Woodland Park, you can bring the same design down here, right? Because everybody's adopting pretty much the same fire code.
Generally, the one comment I would make to that is that the part of this that we're asking you to adopt includes the amendments, and there are some amendments in the code that are specific to our jurisdiction. Side note on that, as a point of context, all 5 municipalities within El Paso County also have amendments to their 2021 fire code that they've either adopted or are adopting. It's just to kind of tailor, no pun intended, sir, tailor fit the code to each jurisdiction's individual needs.
Yeah, but generally. the
Generally,
same.
yes,
They
ma'am.
might have to tweak a little thing here and there, not the whole design.
Correct.
So, okay. All righty. Any questions from anybody up here? And HBA, you said, had reviewed this, right? Or they're aware of it?
HBA is aware of it, not necessarily on our behalf, but on behalf of the other, the 18 special districts within unincorporated El Paso County have been working with HBA on this. Our focus was to get in lockstep with RBD. That being said, going back a couple of years ago when we first started this process, HBA was heavily involved in both the idea of adopting and updating to the 2021 and the amendments that we've proposed.
Okay. Home Builders Association, sorry. Okay. Councilmember Verhoff.
Thank you, Chief Graham, and thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there any part of this that because anytime you're updating fire codes, a lot of folks get concerned with the grandfathered, especially with Fountain being that a lot of our buildings are up to 100 years old?
My response to that would be, Counselor, that anytime a business or an occupancy changes occupancy code, that generally triggers having to bring it up to the adopted code. And so if you're running a business as a flower shop and decide to change the occupancy to a fuel distribution store, there would obviously be a change in occupancy, which would therefore trigger having to bring it up to the adopted code. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Do you mean change in occupancy or change in use?
Change of occupancy classification.
Okay.
So-
Yeah,
so
because Todd
code-
always talks to us about change of use of the building, then it has to
I
come
think
up
in
to
this
code,
case, that would
right?
be synonymous, but
Okay.
occupancy class is geek talk in the code for A, B, C, D, and those sorts of things.
Okay.
And I've
Okay.
got my subject matter expert, and he will definitely nerd out on this if you
Oh.
need him to.
That's okay. That's okay. It's getting late. Okay. All right. Were you finished? Yes, thank you. Okay. Any questions from anyone in the audience on the fire code? Okay. All righty. Okay, with that, I'll bring it back up here. So what would council like to do with the first reading of ordinance 1819? Councilmember Geek.
I recommend approval of ordinance 1819 on the first reading.
Councilmember Verhoff?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Okay, that takes us to item 9C, Resolution 26-011, a resolution approving the intergovernment agreement between the City of Fountain, Colorado, and the Fountain Urban Renewal Authority for Administrative Services. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This resolution adopts the attached intergovernmental agreement with FURA, with Fountain Urban Renewal Authority. FURA is required to enter into an intergovernmental agreement for something like this, but essentially as their chairperson at the last meeting came and spoke to the council, and as a token of gratitude for all the years of support and as acknowledgement of the revenues that are being generated through urban renewal, they want to enter into this intergovernmental agreement to pay for a portion for half of the personnel costs for that, fully burdened costs of the personnel for that economic development, well, for urban renewal director. So that's what you have in front of you, an intergovernmental agreement that'll bring in an additional approximately $80,000 annually to the city on behalf of FURA, and just with their thanks, as their chairperson mentioned at the last meeting.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council? Councilmember Hertzberg.
I just, for a matter of record, since I'm the council person on FURA, I did abstain from votes associated with this during their meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Okay, is there any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back up here. What would council like to do with item 9C, Resolution 26-011? Councilmember Estes.
Move to approve Resolution 26-011.
Councilmember Rick.
Second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Resolution 26-012, a resolution to open Southmore Drive and amend the FY 2026 budget. Mr. Evans.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is a continuation of our discussion item that we had regarding the options to open Southmore Drive. We're going to pull up just our options here. The options have not changed, and following our discussion, I think it was 2 councils ago, the council requested that we take this item in front of our city roadway focus group, go through the same presentation that we gave council and come back with what their recommendation was. So at this point, again, none of the facts have changed. We had to shut Southmore down. Just a quick summary for anyone that's here or is watching online. We had to shut Southmore Drive because of the damage that was being done because of the runnage or the drainage and the Fountain Creek storms that had been damaging the roadway itself as it was being undercut. Therefore, it's been shut down, bless you, for several years, and the Fountain Creek Watershed District completed a creek stabilization project this last summer. So now it's at the point of what do we do with Southmore? So we talked about those options. I'll run through them real quickly for you. Open as is with a guardrail being our lowest recommendation, as we wanted to make sure that it's a safe roadway. Number 2 is open with partial improvements. 1,900 linear foot of full depth reclamation of asphalt, striping, guardrail included as well. Includes paving from the American Legion north up to the Walmart entrance. I won't go into depth in option 3. Option 3 is basically opening with full improvements, would be a full depth reclamation, everything else included with a longer linear feet of paving, 3,800 linear feet. So we brought this to our roadway focus group, had a good discussion as that group always does. And for the folks that don't know, roadway focus group is made up of citizens, and it's made up of individuals from 3 different zones in the city. And we actually now, because of a passing that we had on that group, we will have a replacement on that group. We've had the same group together since 2017. Which is as rare as you could get for a volunteer group for any city committee board or anything else. So these folks are really, really knowledgeable about our roadway challenges and issues that we have with the road. So as we discussed them with them, again, great discussion back and forth, and it ultimately was unanimous that they recommended to the council that they go with option 2. So opening Southmore with the partial improvements of the $450,000 and the different improvements that I just discussed. So I'll open that back up to council or the public for any other questions, but that's what the roadway focus group's recommendation was.
Okay, and remind me again the total amount of money that we have to work with?
So we received an access permit fee in November of last year of $768,000.
768?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So this would leave right about $320,000 left, which would go back into our resurfacing projects that we have scheduled and allow us to do more resurfacing on those projects within the city this year.
Okay. You looked like you were reaching.
Just for a matter of record, as a member of the roadway focus group, during the conversations, I did not express a personal opinion.
Or vote or anything?
We don't vote, but yeah.
Okay. Participate in making the recommendation. You abstain. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you. All right, this is a tough one. My personal opinion is that number one is a waste of money. To open it up and put a guardrail up and not do anything, it's just kind of a waste of money. But we don't have a lot of chances where we can really kind of save a road. Some of them are in such bad shape, they just have to be rebuilt, so.
That's correct.
This, options 2 or 3 would save the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have 768, so option 3, did they not choose that one because it was more money? Or can we give you the option to spend up to the full amount on that and see how far you can get?
You could. I mean, you can give us any option that you would like to do. But in our professional opinion, we would recommend option 2 over option 3, as we've got other uses in the city that we can use that $320,000 for. And one thing we've always tried to do citywide is not focus all of our money on any one project. We've tried to utilize that money throughout the city. So we would not recommend option 3 as well as the staff.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there as options that people
Sure.
might be thinking of, so, okay, all righty. And this is just a tough one, because, literally when I walked the streets, it was pretty much 50-50, what people were wanting, and people who wanted it open were very passionate about it for their reason. People who wanted it left closed were very passionate about it for that reason, And, but anyways, so let's see where it goes. All right, Councilmember Verhoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During the roadway focus group, was there any discussion of if they went with option 1, where else they would like to spend the money?
We have got, Mr. Veerhoff, we've got about 100 different options to spend that money on. We could do that real easily. So with that group, they understand how many projects we have in the city and how we could utilize that. There was discussion about the amount of traffic in the other areas and are there other priorities. So they discussed all of those different type of options.
And this option still came back as their ultimate recommendation?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
If I remember correctly, Mr. McDonald was saying that if we went with option 1, he would be up there all the time, repairing this and repairing that.
He would.
And we probably would very quickly, be up to one of those amount of monies.
Which kind of goes back to your waste of money. Because
Yeah.
at that point then, both employee time and the amount of money that we would be piecemealing it. And as we all know, it's on just your regular health project, if you just keep putting money into it, at a certain point, then you have to, at the end of that, rebuild it again. So all that money will have been wasted.
Right. Okay, Councilmember Rick?
So when I look at option 1 and option 2, option 1 is cheaper, and it has the advantage of if all of a sudden there's a huge flood and the bank washes away, we're not out very much money. Okay. Option 2, if we approve that and we spend that money, yeah, it's going to make the road better, but there's no guarantee that the bank's going to hold. When I look at this, if we don't do option 2, if we wait, the cost is going to go up significantly.
Correct.
No matter, and the estimates I've heard are between an increase of 20 to 50%. Does that sound right, Bob?
Depending how long you waited, yes. As I spoke earlier, deferred maintenance is always money wasted. If you have the money to fix something, you just fix it when you can. This would rebuild that roadway. So when we talk about a full depth reclamation, we're taking the existing roadway, recycling it in place, and then putting a new road on top of it. So you are getting a new roadway for this money. Based on the usage of this money, other areas in the city, I've commented that a lot, although the need is definitely there, with the amount of money we have, I could not do this process in very many other places in the city that need it based on the subgrade conditions of those roadways. So If you look at a roadway like Ancestra, Cross Creek, all those neighborhoods that are in desperate need of rebuilding, I couldn't do much more than a quarter mile of roadway for this money. So you're not really getting anything for it. So our discussion was based on the money that's available and what needs to be done on that road. If we ever plan on reopening the road and we want to maintain that road, now's the best time to do it.
Okay, so based off that, if we wait, we're going to pay more. I have to agree with option 2.
Councilmember Estes.
And remind us that this road actually has a really good base under it still, so that's why we can do more road for this amount of money.
That's correct. I took about 5 quarters of the roadway, and we average about 6 to 8 inches of base. So with the reclamation of the asphalt that's there, we should be able to produce a pretty good road.
Okay, and for the same reasons as Councilmember Gordon, Rick, that I agree that this makes the most sense to me with option 2.
Oh, man, it was a really good question. Where did it fly to? Did anybody pick it up on the way by? No. Okay. A lot of people were concerned about when the river washed out, the embankment washed out. It was like road this.
It had actually started undercutting the road.
Right, and so now they've gone back and there is more of an embankment. I wish we had a current picture. So if we were to put the guardrail there, there is still some embankment on the other side of it. Is that correct? Not just a sheer drop off like we had
There is.
previously.
And one thing I'd recommend everybody, and Ben's here as well, but when we recommend safety factors for you all, what I've learned is I try not to be a junior engineer. Ben won't allow that. What we have to follow is there's different guidelines that Bob has to utilize, that Ben has to utilize, that are best practices all over the nation. So we make sure that we use those and not just kind of what my opinion might be, because that doesn't help us if we are in a liability situation. So when we recommend these, we're using those national standard guidelines.
And I know when this was first repaired, we were saying we're going to wait a year to see how everything settles. But that was the information we had at that moment. And when the information changes, then your decision has to change. So if people are out there saying, oh, they said they're going to wait a year or 2 and let it settle, that was the information we had then. And right now, we're comfortable with considering this option.
We are.
Okay, thank you. I see your light, but I've got some other council members who haven't said anything yet, so. Councilmember Hersberg or Councilmember Geek, anything? Nope. Okay, Councilmember Verhoff?
Thank you. I think I would concur with Councilmember Estes, Councilmember Rick, that it looks like with the information in front of us that option 2 is the best.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, out to the audience. Come down, state your name for the record.
Hello again. My name's Adam McDonald. I'm sure you remember my last name.
Yes.
So I live in that neighborhood behind the DQ, and I use that road every few days. I ride a one-wheel through there, and being that road is a great bypass to 85, 87, which we all know that is a very dangerous road, which you guys put in that signal light, which is amazing. But there's also 2 other intersections that don't have that light, and people want to try to bypass it as well, so it's still dangerous. But if somebody just wants to go to the Walmart or any of those businesses, they can take that back road safely and have no issues. I used to take it all the time. I've been living there since 2012, and I seen, the embankment was like, it was a cliff. It was dangerous. Now that we spent all this money, I know I think we spoke of.
We contributed $600,000 to it from ARPA funds. Is that correct, Todd?
It was, and that was a over $6 million project, so
Right.
our contribution was $600,000.
So we've already put in all this money to make this road safe again, and we have to add another $450 to make it, usable. So $6 million. If we don't open it, we've just lost all that money. And I seen the project, and it looks amazing. It's shored up. I mean, it looks really, really good, and I would take my family down that road. I would, there's 360 homes back there, approximately, give or take or two. So I would say, maybe 1,500 people live in that neighborhood that would potentially use that road to get to those businesses. If it's not passed, what's going to happen with that road? Are we just going to keep it closed and then forever?
Well, if we open it up and didn't do any improvements, the road just did the guardrail, option number 1, because we really believe it needs a guardrail there if it's going to be open. Then the road would continue to deteriorate. Mr. McDonald would be out there monthly, probably patching this, patching that. We would very shortly be up to the amount of money we could have spent to do it correctly on option 2 or 3. Yeah.
Okay.
The one big concern I have heard overwhelmingly from people in your area is speed. So I don't know.
That's pretty much every neighborhood.
Yeah.
Speed is always, you're looking for voluntary compliance. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see anybody racing, speeding up there, if we do open it, please encourage them to slow down.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little guy here.
Everybody's
as a-
opinion counts.
A Fountain resident, I vote yes to open that road. Please and thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in today. I just met him Sunday, so he was very curious about it, so thank you. And we encouraged him to come.
You bet.
Come talk to the council. Come talk to everybody. It wasn't that hard, was it? No. Okay, good. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I never spoke.
You did great. Good job. Everybody starts somewhere. I remember the first time I came down to speak, I thought my knees were going to collapse because they were banging together so hard. So, yeah. All right. Any otherybody in the audience or anyone online? Okay,
No, ma'am.
Nobody online? Okay, please come down, state your name for the record.
Scott Schultz. I've been in that area since 1997 myself. I just want to say I agree with you all. I agree option number 2, in my opinion, I'm not an engineer, is the best. I don't see the need to put the 870 into it, something more than the 51 to eliminate, the future need. So I am fully behind the option number 2. And I want to thank you guys, before anything is said and done, for all the time and effort that you have put into this. Everybody.
You bet.
Thank you. And I want to include Bart in that thanks because they went out and walked door to door, trying to get people, to make sure that,
250 homes.
yeah. Sam did too. Yeah, I would have been willing to help, but it was just bad timing. I just couldn't get out there, so, yeah. All right, any other comments from anybody in the audience? Okay, with that, I guess it comes back up to us. Any last comments or questions from council? Councilmember Hertzberg.
Bob, can you just, for disclosure, if we were to do something like an option 2, what that timeline before reopening would realistically look like?
You bet. We're out for bid right now. I had a pre-bid meeting today with the contractor, so the bid is out. It's a public bid for an RFB right now, so the bids are due next Wednesday, I believe. So I'll know more once we get the bids in. Of course, I'll work on contracts. We'll figure out exact cost. I've got estimates on all the projects that we put on based on last year's pricing. It's kind of what I went through. The cost should be about the same this year. We haven't seen a big increase in oils and things like that, so I'm hoping the prices stay consistent with last year based on that. As soon as I can get them under contract, my instructions usually to the contractors, the only thing that we're behind this year on getting the bids out, of course, but my instructions today were to still get the roads, try to get everything completed, or we will prioritize roads that need to be completed prior to school starting. So if there's a school, this is just the paving portion of it. I also have a chip seal contract that we're working on, so both those things are going at the same time. So as we get the contracts back in and the bids back in, I will coordinate with the contractors. Of course, if we have any roads that affect the school zone, things like that, those will be prioritized Fountain Mesa, north of where we stopped the project last year, is on there, so that would probably be a priority for us to get that one finished first. The nice thing right now about Southmore is we should save a lot of money on traffic control because the road's closed. So other than ensuring access from all the neighbors that live back there, we should save a lot of money just on traffic control.
And the road will remain closed until it's completely open. We're not going to open it, put the guardrail up, and then close it.
Then close it
It's just
again.
going to
Correct,
stay
It's
closed.
going to stay as is.
And let me summarize that, summertime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for end of summer, and if it's earlier, you can have a happy dance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're hoping, my goal is by the end of August at the latest, or I'm sorry, the beginning of August at the latest.
And everything's weather dependent.
It is weather dependent, and we, you know, there's, when you're tearing up a roadway, there's always Pandora's box that we may open up. So, based on, when we start that full depth reclamation, we start digging into and open up Pandora's box, we may have to, based on available funds, we may have to shorten that project a little bit. Maybe we have some extra, we can go a few more feet. But it'll really be determined once we get out there and actually start putting shovels in the ground.
Councilmember Rick, and then Councilmember Verhoff.
Just a personal request, anything we can do to get it done by Veterans Day, because we always hold our annual Veterans Day ceremony. The American Legion, having that road open for Veterans Day would be appreciated. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Verhoff?
I just wanted to say thank you to Todd, Bob, and the rest of the staff for this for your work on this project, as well as the Roadway Focus Group, because this has been a lot for a project, so thank you guys.
Okay. So we have option 1, 2, and 3. I'm hearing pretty much that everybody doesn't like option 1. So I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Estes.
I move to pass Resolution 26-012 with option 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Verhoff.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
Okay, that takes us to item 10, City Council Agenda Requests. Are there any to my right? Councilmember Verhoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just request, I made a mistake by not pulling it off the consent agenda last meeting for the update on the Station 4 fire station. I'd like a discussion with staff probably at the next meeting about what's the progress there, so the citizens can see where we're at on that and where we're going.
Okay, but the motion that passed was for only the design of it, so it was, but I think it's not a bad idea to get an update.
I can give a short presentation on it. Right now, we'll wait, and our plan was to give you a full presentation once we went through the bid process, so we had timelines and financial figures for you as well. Right now, you pretty much summarized. We're just working on the architecture and the design.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Would you be willing to wait until we get the designs in and then we can get more thorough?
It'll take them, we'll probably be a month and a half, 2 months in the design, engineering, and the bid processing.
Would the council be okay with a presentation probably either end of March's meeting for that?
Sure.
I'm fine waiting till we get the bids in, but what does everybody else think? When the bids are in? When the bids are in? Okay.
Okay,
I don't want
that's fine
staff
with
to
me.
just have to prepare 2 things. Okay. And in the meantime, you're more than welcome to get with Todd and get an update on your own, so. Okay, thank you. All right, so when did you say the bids are closed?
We don't have an exact timeline. That'll depend on the design, the engineering, but we're expecting month and a half, 2 months.
Okay. All right, that's not too bad then. Okay, thank you. All righty, anybody on my left? All right, okay. With that, Ms. Joni, do we have an executive session?
No, ma'am.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned.